Installation of a Pruveeo D700 dash cam with the backup camera as well. This is a 2007 Ford Explorer. Got the dog crate in the back. Probably did mine a little bit different, so I popped off the interior piece right here, and I ran a steel fish wire right here. Get those at Lowe's for about, I don't know, 10 bucks, from the rear to the forward part of the vehicle. So I also, when I purchased this, purchased the extension cable, 16.5 feet, probably got more than I needed. So, but because the vehicle is so long, I needed to do that. So as you can see here in a moment, you see my wiring harness up there. On a smaller car, the red and black for the backup camera would be in the back. So one thing I had to do extra, because you want your backup camera to be powered up by the reverse lights, with the extension cable, I ran another wire. Only had black, I probably should have used red, but I'll put a piece of red tape on it. So I have to wire this up to the reverse light, because I only want my backup camera to come on when I go into reverse. So there you have it. Like I said, I took off the interior pieces off the back, kind of loosened them up here a little bit, fished that wire. Really went quite easy, to be honest. It had to feed it a little bit. I took the overhead console off in the front, one screw, popped that off. Anyway, I fed my wires up there. So now I'm up in the front of the vehicle. I have my extension cable that I ran up there with the wire that I will bring up for the hot when it's in reverse to wire up to here to the backup camera. So one thing I did differently, I am going to not use the cigarette lighter adapter. I wired mine into the wiring harness to a keyed hot and a return wire or a chassis ground. So, and I use a splice connector. I already taped them up, but they're crimp on, so you don't have to cut the wire. You just crimp it over the existing wiring harness wire, and then you tie in a wire that you're going to use. So right here I have my keyed hot and my chassis for the return right here. So I'll show you in a little bit how I'm going to modify the cigarette lighter adapter to make this work. So you may want to just use the cigarette lighter, where you gotta kind of feed it through the overhead, bring it down, the little interior pieces there on the inside, pop those off. And again, I think I mentioned it earlier, but use yourself the interior removing tools. I got a whole kit of them down here. I got them on Amazon, really cheap. So you don't use a screwdriver and mar that stuff up. Alright, be back in a second. Alright, so I plugged in my extension cable into the main wiring harness that comes with the camera. That's for the backup camera, once again. And then I lined up the arrows, plugged it in, but I put a little turn of tape on it, left myself a little flag there for the next person. Just line up the arrows, plug it in, make sure it's seated correctly, and you should be good to go on that. I know it's getting a little bit jumbled up here. So I got my hot wire from the original harness for the backup camera, and then I'm going to tie that to the wire I ran up from the rear of the car to this reverse light hot wire. So when I'm backed up, this wire will be hot, the one I'm holding here, and I will tie that through a proper splice to the hot for the backup cam. Okay, so I joined my reverse light hot to my backup camera hot. So when I go in reverse, that will light up the camera. Okay, it's starting to come together a little bit now. So I pulled the excess wire to the back, and I kind of stuffed it up into where the console will plug in. Be mindful to keep your wires away from where any screws go and so on. Then I'll have some excess, obviously, because I use the extension cable. I'll also kind of neatly tuck that back up here in the overhead. Alright, so I have the excess wire tucked up in where the overhead console, this doodad, where it'll go. So, but again, just be mindful that you keep your wires away from screw holes so you don't bite into the wire with the screw. Now I have the jack for the backup camera that will go in the AV port on the master of the DVR unit. I got my hot wire here that I will be splicing in for the power adapter for the master, the mirror unit, here in a moment. Okay, like I said, I'm not going to use the cigarette lighter adapter. So I took the shell of it apart, unscrewed the end, and then I'm not going to be using those. Actually, I will. I might go ahead and re-encase this board back in here. But I'm going to wire directly in to the circuit board to heat that up, so I can heat up my cable for powering up the DVR unit. Okay, I removed the two things that would actually be connected to the cigarette lighter, and then I just ran 2 wires to it. So I'm going to hook that into my keyed hot, and then my chassis return. Okay, so I got it back together. Like I said, I put the case on. The only regret is I probably should have cut back some of that excess wire. I probably only need like a foot. I probably got about 10. Alright. Alright, I was able to tuck the cigarette lighter adapter up into the overhead. Now I just have my 2 feeder wires going to that I'm going to splice into my wiring harness. Alright, so I got everything spliced in here. Now I got my hot going to my keyed hot. I got my 3 returns for one for the chassis, and then actually that's just the feeder to the return. But I got the one for my cigarette lighter adapter, and then I got the other one going back to the backup camera. So those are my 3 returns. And if you remember, I brought back the hot for the backup camera. I got it stuffed up here, but it's tied to the reverse lights. Alright, so I'll get this all put back together. Be right back. And you can see when I turn the key on, I got a good connection because my cigarette lighter adapter red light came on. Alright, so I got Bandit, my assistant. What do you think, Bandit? Oh, hey buddy. He wants to go for a ride. Good boy. We doing a good job? Bandit? We doing a good job? Okay, so I was able to get the overhead console button back up. So all the wires are all tucked up underneath there. No worries there. Fitting good. Then I got the 2 wires for the camera right there. So I'll have my backup jack, and then I got the power connection. Okay, I got the mirror unit, the DVR mounted on the mirror. Pretty easy. You guys already know how to do this. You get the instructions. So the straps wrap around the existing mirror. And the nice thing I like about my installation is the wires for the camera just tuck up into the console, and it's a little more hidden. I mean, I don't have a lot of cigarette lighter ports on this car, on this 2007 Explorer, so I just did it that way. And you can kind of see where the wires just dip back up underneath. Alright, so we'll fire it up and see how it goes. Alright, so I got the key in, give it a turn it on. Yeah, there we go. That's cool. What do you think, Bandit? Ooh. Mr. Crazy. Alright, so the camera is working to the front of the car. Finished the install on this 2007 Ford Explorer. Like I showed you earlier, ran all the wires in the overhead, made all my connections up there. I have no adapter plugged in anywhere. I did the modifications up there. As far as the review of the camera, I definitely give it thumbs up all around. I got the settings adjusted how I want them. So you just tap and you can tap on the screen, you can do your different screen views, reverse, the front. You can do a split screen reversed. Then you can do a split screen where it's kind of bigger. Instead of a picture-in-a-picture, it's like, I guess, an official split screen. To get into the menu, you want to turn off the recording. And then you want to hit the home button. You can do your different setups here. You guys can walk through the menu just as easy as I can. One thing I did do is I set my the duration that the camera is on for like 5 seconds, so it goes right back. To get back to the main screen, just hit the record button, and then you're back recording again. And I'll show you how I did the camera in the back. I had to install my camera off of center, put it over here. You can see how I kind of mounted it up in there. I didn't use the screws that came with it because they are garbage. I used a couple self-tappers, see up in there, but I couldn't put it in the center because there's just too much to contend with from the back. I got this handle for the lift gate. Sorry about that. I got all kinds of stuff up here, another button, and so on. It's off center, so it's not going to be centered up exactly on the lines when you put it in reverse. So it's kind of weird, and I'll show you a little example of that. Hold on. So I had went ahead and switched the ignition key on, put the brake on. I'm going to go ahead and put it in reverse now. And because I tied the hot wire to the reverse camera, the rear camera to my backup lights, it comes on. I know I got a lot of glare right there, but you can see the lineup lines for backing up. I mean, because my camera's not exactly center, it's going to be off kilter a bit, but I don't really plan on using those anyway. But so I go back to park, and then it goes back to the split screen. And again, I can change my camera view to whatever I want. All front. I got all back. I got front with the split, or not split, small. Back with a small front. Split down the middle. And all front. So there you go. Yeah, like I said, I highly recommend this camera so far. I've did a little test drive with it. It seems to be great. Not bad. Not bad at all for, what is it, 59 bucks on Amazon. So there you go. I would give it 9 out of 10 stars, but I only had it a week. So we'll see how it goes. Take care, YouTube.